This substance is 8 times rarer on the planet than gold, but it's way more sought after. It's one of the least common elements on Earth, and its name comes from the Latin word for Earth. Still, there's less of it on Earth than anywhere else in space. In 1 ton of Earth, you'll find about 0.00003 ounces of this substance, and until recently, the only thing people really knew about it was that, when in contact with it, you might end up smelling like garlic. But recently, the US government classified this substance as one of the most important minerals. It's that crucial for the economy and energy security. And of course, it has nothing to do with the smell of garlic, but we'll figure out what it's really about after a cup of coffee. So meet tellurium. Tellurium is a metalloid, one of the 7 elements with properties that fall between metals like aluminum and tin and nonmetals like carbon and phosphorus. In short, it's an in-between element, not quite one or the other. At the same time, tellurium is a rising star on the global market because it's already in demand everywhere, and the need for it will only grow in the future. That's because thin film solar cells are becoming more popular, and you can't make them without tellurium, specifically cadmium telluride. It's needed when it comes to using sunlight to meet the growing global energy demands. Cadmium telluride-based solar cells guarantee high energy generation, fast conversion speed, low temperature coefficient, and great stability. In short, all the best. No wonder the market for such solar panels is expected to grow rapidly. It's forecasted to exceed $10 billion by 2027, more than twice the size of the thin film solar cell market in 2021. Back then, it was about $4 billion. Here's an unobtrusive reminder to those who forget to do something under the video, not to forget to do it. Tellurium is actually used not only in solar panels, it's also used in copiers, for coloring ceramics and glass, and for making durable rubber products. Solar panels are just the most promising field. If there's a thin film component, these batteries are more efficient. The U.S. Geological Survey says that tellurium and cadmium make a compound with better electrical conductivity, which is why the thin film can efficiently absorb sunlight and turn it into electricity. It's predicted that the tellurium market will grow by $315 million with a compound annual growth rate of 9.84% from 2023 to 2028. The market's experiencing significant growth due to the popularity of clean energy. Everyone's looking for efficient solutions in the renewable energy sector. But when it comes to tellurium, it's not just about efficiency. Thanks to advanced production methods, a cadmium telluride module can be produced in under 4.5 hours. It creates 6 times less carbon dioxide than silicon, and after it's decommissioned, over 90% of the cadmium telluride module can be recycled. And since it takes less time to create, each panel is cheaper. Kind of. The low production cost is definitely considered one of the main advantages of the technology for making cadmium telluride panels. Plus, thin film solar cells made from this material adapt better to different structures. They can be installed on various aircraft and used for space missions. Also, they're versatile for commercial and industrial applications. In general, tellurium is a great thing, if you can manage to find it. This element is usually found in very low concentrations in environmental samples, which makes it tricky to measure. Its rarity is comparable only to platinum. But this is on Earth. What about the rest of the universe? Well, there's much more tellurium out there than on our planet. When Earth was forming, most of the tellurium just blew away into open space. To be more precise, a volatile hydride was formed, which caused the tellurium to escape into space as a gas during the hot nebular formation of Earth. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, most rocks contain an average of about 3 parts per billion of tellurium, making it rarer than rare earth elements. According to data published in 2015, the world's tellurium reserves amount to 24,000 tons, with the USA, Peru, Canada, Japan, and Russia being relatively rich in these reserves. However, the statistics from the U.S. Geological Survey are based on copper resources, as until the 1990s it was believed that most of the tellurium extracted globally was associated with copper deposits. Most of the tellurium extraction around the world actually happens as a byproduct of copper mining, and there aren't any mines where they go after tellurium specifically. When it comes to global reserves, 90% of them are in copper ore. In fact, no other metal has more important byproducts than copper. Tellurium is extracted from waste produced during the refining of copper, which also helps reduce the amount of waste that needs to be processed and disposed of. Well, no one knows if the global copper production will be able to meet the growing demand for tellurium, but there's good news too. The push for low-carbon energy, which increases the demand for more solar panels, and tellurium, which is used in thin film versions, are driving the demand for copper. Copper connects solar panels to each other and then to the grid, so it's like a tandem boost for the production of environmentally friendly energy components. Anyway, today China's rightfully considered the tellurium leader. According to a report from the same U.S. Geological Survey published in early 2024, China produced about 2/3 of the world's tellurium output in 2023. To get a sense of how far China is ahead, just check out this chart. It's clear who's the world leader. Japan is second with its 68 tons compared to China's 500 tons. Then comes Russia with its 40 tons. These are figures from 2022, but production's gradually increasing. That same year, 1.6 times more tellurium was produced than in 2016. But how did China manage to leap to the top? The thing is, the mining industry has been and remains a key factor in China's economic growth. It's what helped the country's rapid development over the last 3 decades and played an important role in the process of industrialization, providing raw materials for the growing demand for resources. The mine in Sichuan province is currently the only independent primary tellurium deposit registered in the world, and it's known as the second national treasure after the giant panda. In total, about 30 tellurium-associated mineral deposits have been discovered across the country, with reserves of nearly 14,000 tons. They're spread across 16 provinces. And don't forget about the sea. In December 2022, the first oceanographic drilling vessel in China, capable of extracting minerals at a depth of 33,000 feet, was introduced at the Nansha port in the Pearl River Delta. And this is quite timely because tellurium is 50,000 times more concentrated on the ocean floor than on land. So China's role in the global production of this incredibly valuable element is only going to grow. Situations where only one country produces an important resource aren't usually very good because they can potentially make other countries heavily dependent. It's no surprise that the U.S. decided to make some changes to this. In 2019 and 2021, 95% of the tellurium the U.S. used was purchased from China. At the same time, the global solar energy market grew by 22% in 2019, so tellurium is one of those things that's needed, and it's needed right now. Especially considering that about 20% of the electricity in the U.S. is generated from renewable sources, including solar. It might seem like 20% isn't that much, but we're talking about a really big country. And electricity is a resource that you can't just give up on. People always need it, and they need it badly. At the same time, trade tension between China and the U.S. keeps growing, and depending on one country and its resources doesn't make the situation any easier. If relations sour, the tellurium supply will stop. Since China controls at least 75% of its global supply chain, if it bans sales, it could have serious consequences for the West's push toward solar energy. To avoid this, the U.S. is trying to secure reliable domestic sources of tellurium and many other critical metals, and they need to do this before a shortage happens. And the U.S. is doing it. The country's dependence on tellurium imports was already 75% in 2020 and continues to drop. In 2021, the U.S. managed to meet about 57% of its tellurium needs by importing it from Canada, with the rest mainly coming from Germany, China, and the Philippines. By 2023, the U.S. reliance on net tellurium imports dropped even further to 25%. This sharp drop in just a couple of years is pretty easy to explain. A huge mine on U.S. territory. The Kennecott mine is located not far from Salt Lake City, Utah. The Kennecott Company has been extracting and processing minerals from the rich ore body of the Bingham Canyon pit since 1903. And today it's one of the largest mines in the world. By the way, Bingham Canyon's the largest artificial excavation and the deepest open pit mine on the planet. It's believed that more copper was extracted here than from any other mine in history. over 17 million tons. Besides the mine, the site houses a concentrator plant, smelting and refining factories, the latter specifically focused on processing industrial products and extracting precious metals. And yes, the mine is just enormous. Its depth is over 3,970 feet, its width is 2.5 miles, and its total area is about 1,900 acres. It was even declared a National Historic Landmark in 1966 under the name Bingham Canyon Open Pit Copper Mine. The mining industry in Utah is a major sector with a turnover of about $4 billion, and copper is its most valuable product. Over its 118 years of operation, Kennecott has earned a reputation as one of the most productive mines in the world. But a few years ago, the rapidly growing renewable energy market prompted the Australian-British conglomerate Rio Tinto to invest $1.9 billion in extending the mine's life until 2032. During this time, they plan to produce about 1 million tons of pure copper without impurities. But it's not just about copper. In 2022, Rio Tinto kicked off the process of extracting tellurium at the Kennecott mine. That's how the concern became one of the two producers of this key mineral in the U.S. Here's the plan. Tellurium is refined in North America by 5N+, a leading global producer of specialty semiconductors and performance materials, and then delivered to consumers. First and foremost to First Solar, the only American company among the world's 10 largest solar panel manufacturers. 5N+ is also supposed to use tellurium to make ultra-pure semiconductor materials at its plant in St. George, Utah. If everything goes as planned, the country will be getting around 20 tons of tellurium a year, worth $2.9 million. By the way, if Rio Tinto's the second largest producer, then who's the first? Well, production used to be done at a mining facility in Amarillo, Texas. That plant sends copper anode slimes to Mexico to extract tellurium. Yeah, they had to rely on another country's resources there too. So going ahead with local tellurium production is one more important push for the U.S. to boost independence and energy security. Plus, it's a step that could very well change the world. Back in April 2023, Rio Tinto estimated that Kennecott would become the sixth largest tellurium producer in the world, covering about 3% of global supply. The company noted that in 2021, only 580 tons of tellurium were produced worldwide. And since the tellurium market is so tiny, 20 tons is quite a lot. The ability to produce 20 tons in the U.S. will give the country a serious boost, not to mention the long-term potential. Look, when cadmium telluride solar technology was first introduced in 1972, these panels had an efficiency of 6%. Companies like Kodak, Mono Solar, Amitech, and many others explored this new tech, and it paid off. Without their research, we wouldn't even know how awesome these panels really are. After all, they're the most popular and the most preferred choice for the world's leading thin-film solar panel manufacturers. Back in 2016, the American solar giant First Solar set yet another world record for energy conversion efficiency in cadmium telluride-based thin-film cells. The figure hit 22.1%. You get where I'm going with this? So we've got solar panels that are more efficient than standard ones, plus they're faster and cheaper to produce. And all of this is happening in a world that's working hard to transition to green energy. Right now, while you're watching this video, the demand for solar panels is growing. Over time, there will be more and more of these panels, and they might show up just about everywhere. That means the importance of American manufacturing is only going to grow. So right before our eyes, Rio Tinto is becoming a company that brings the U.S. closer to China and tellurium production, while also making it possible to create a variety of products that people want. Metals analyst Chen Lin mentioned in a recent interview that First Solar, as the largest producer of solar panels in the U.S., is directly competing with Chinese solar panel manufacturers. First Solar buys more tellurium than any other consumer in the world. Naturally, this could turn the usual scenario completely upside down. As a result of the expansion, North America will contribute 38% to the growth of the international market in the forecasted period from 2024 to 2028. And since this period has already begun, well, let's just watch. Oh, there's another thing to mention. Copper isn't the only metal that can give us tellurium. If copper refining and processing plants can't meet the demand for tellurium needed for solar energy, there's another option: gold mines. Extracting tellurium directly from telluride minerals during gold mining in places like Cripple Creek, Colorado, the Sierra Nevada foothills in California, and southeastern Alaska could become an economic necessity. About 10 years ago, First Solar was considering the possibility of extracting its own tellurium from the Klondike gold-silver mine about 100 miles northeast of Durango, Colorado. Later, however, they decided to forego their own tellurium mining venture, and First Tellurium Corporation took over the site. Samples were collected there with a content of 3.3% tellurium, 1.19 ounces pure metric ton of gold, and 13 ounces per ton of silver. And that's quite a significant figure. Klondike has the highest tellurium content in rock samples among hundreds of promising sites and mines that were studied in the U.S. and Canada up until 2011. At the beginning of 2022, additional samples were collected as part of the preparation for the drilling program at Klondike. One of the rocks contained 1.1% tellurium, 0.13 ounces per ton of gold, and 4.5 ounces per ton of silver. Also, tellurium was found in zinc and lead, and of course in copper. There are, however, other places. The gold-producing areas in North America, especially rich in tellurium, include the Juneau Gold Belt in southeastern Alaska, the Kirkland Lake and Red Lake areas in Ontario, as well as the Yellowknife Mining District in the Northwest Territories. And although they could theoretically be used effectively, new processes are needed for this. Extracting tellurium from gold is not the same as extracting it from copper. So right now, these deposits aren't significant sources of tellurium. The ore processing method for extracting gold and silver doesn't allow for extracting tellurium, and if they had to completely overhaul the production, well, you can just imagine how much that would cost. The most important news from the last few days is that I wanted to download an interesting, unique game with some special mechanics. I ended up spending hours searching and realized it's all just the same boring shit. I'll just have to wait until the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is released and play as Good Henry. Additional income. As we've already figured out today, tellurium is essential for producing certain types of solar panels. And if the U.S. ends up ramping up its production of this metal, it could bring in a pretty nice boost to the budget. According to a study commissioned by the American cadmium telluride-based thin-film solar panel manufacturer First Solar, by 2026, the production of such panels could bring over $10 billion to the U.S. economy in added product value. Sounds pretty good. But that's not all. A bonus of $2.78 billion could come from labor income thanks to about 30,000 jobs that'll be created by First Solar by 2026. Besides the fact that, according to the study, the U.S. will get an additional income source, it's clear that tellurium-based solar panels are extremely valuable for the country, and it's not only because of the rare metal used in their production, but also because they plan to use metal mined inside the country rather than imported materials. On top of that, First Solar uses fewer stages in its manufacturing process than traditional silicon solar panels. And thanks to the tellurium mined in the U.S., the country won't rely on silicon imports, but instead will use a national product. A great plan. $20 million for research. To prove just how much the U.S. is interested in thin-film solar panels, the Department of Energy has allocated $20 million for various studies related to these components and tellurium. But what exactly will the money be spent on? First of all, innovative prototypes of solar cells and mini modules will be developed. This is needed to find ways to reduce the cost of solar panels, lower carbon emissions, and decrease the energy intensity of the production processes for photovoltaic systems. Additionally, there are plans to optimize photovoltaic technologies in new and emerging markets. Second, funding will go to academic research and projects focused on developing new or improving current research equipment for cadmium telluride. The objectives here are to speed up the research of cells and modules made from this element, boost the efficiency, lifespan, and energy output of PV cells, and come up with new cell designs using cadmium telluride. All of this in order to surpass current technologies. Progress, as it is. The race for tellurium. As you may have already realized, the global demand for tellurium is growing, so it's not just the U.S. trying to get its hands on more of this metal. Canada, in British Columbia, also has a tellurium deposit called Deerhorn, and due to the market situation, the country is actively developing it. This is actually a big advantage, as North America heavily relies on external sources of this element. FTEL plans to mine tellurium, and it's definitely going to benefit from this move. See for yourself. In 2022, 2 pounds of tellurium cost $70, and in 2023 it was already up to $80. Quite a nice increase. And with solar energy booming right now, the demand is going to be incredible. On top of that, tellurium miners will profit not only from the steadily rising price. The fact is that FTEL also benefits from low exploration and development costs, fast extraction and delivery, and quicker permit approval for smaller mines. And yes, the company is pretty successful in geological exploration. In 2022, FTEL expanded the potential size of the mineral zone at the Deer Horn site by another 0.7 miles, bringing the total potential length of the mine to 2.2 miles. New frontiers. Green energy is becoming so popular that it's literally breaking records. In the first quarter of 2024, the U.S. added a record 11 gigawatts of new solar panel capacity, the highest in the country's entire history. Well, that's considering that we haven't been using solar panels for all that long, but that's just a side note. According to the U.S. Solar Market Insight Report for Q2 2024 published by the Solar Energy Industries Association, the total solar module manufacturing capacity in the U.S. now exceeds 26 gigawatts per year. The report also includes new data for 2023. That year, the U.S. added over 40 gigawatts of new solar capacity. All of this became possible thanks to new federal investments in clean energy. They're reviving American manufacturing and strengthening the country's energy economy. And it doesn't matter if it's billions in investment for a nearby solar project or a new factory that's employing hundreds of local workers. The solar panel and energy storage industry is having a very positive impact on the economy everywhere. Another interesting fact from the report is the share of solar energy in the entire energy system of the U.S. It accounted for 64% of all new capacity, meaning more than half. A very green trend. Currently, solar power in the U.S. generates enough electricity annually to power more than 37 million homes. Texas and Florida still remain the states with the largest installed capacity in 2024, while California showed a decline. This is mostly blamed on various political processes. The uncertainty in trade policies singled out as one of the issues in the solar industry. Alongside it, there are also concerns about a lack of workforce and issues with high-voltage equipment. In any case, the total solar power capacity in the U.S. is expected to grow over the next 5 years, reaching 438 gigawatts by 2029. And if domestic tellurium production goes up, the number could be even higher. You owe me exactly 1 like. See you later.